Right now, at this exact moment on Sunday, April 19th, 2026, the largest single-day physical silver buying event on planet Earth is happening. And there is not a single mention of it on Bloomberg, not on CNBC, not on Reuters' front page, nothing. 1.4 billion people, one day. Millions of transactions happening simultaneously across an entire subcontinent. And the financial media in America is running stories about stock market records and Iran's ceasefire optimism, while the most important demand shock in the silver market this year is draining global supply in real time. Today is Akshaya Tritiya, and if you don't know what that means, you are missing the single most critical supply drain story in silver right now. Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Today, April 19th, 2026. Let me show you exactly what is happening, why it is permanent, why it is accelerating, and why the COMEX price of $79.60 is about to violently correct to reflect a physical market reality that India is forcing into existence whether Wall Street acknowledges it or not. Akshaya Tritiya is one of the most sacred days in the Hindu calendar. The name translates to eternal prosperity. Purchasing gold and silver on this day is considered deeply auspicious, a divine guarantee of wealth, health, and blessings for the entire coming year. For 1.4 billion people across India, this is not a shopping event. It is a religious and cultural obligation that has existed for over 3,000 years. Here is what that looks like in actual market data today, April 19th, 2026. Silver in India is trading at Rs 270,000 per kilogram. That converts to Rs 270 per gram. In US dollars per troy ounce, that is approximately $99 to $101. COMEX closed Friday at $79.60. The premium Indian buyers are paying over COMEX spot is 24 to 27%, not 2%, not 5%, 24 to 27%. Think about that transaction for exactly 5 seconds. An Indian family walks into a dealer in Mumbai today, asks the price of silver, and is quoted $101 per ounce when the global benchmark price is $79.60, and they buy it anyway, not reluctantly, eagerly. Because for them, this is not about getting the best price. It is about fulfilling a cultural, religious, and financial obligation that has governed wealth preservation in their civilization for millennia. This is not speculative demand. This is not price-sensitive demand. This is structural, inelastic, culturally embedded demand that does not switch off when the price goes up. And every single ounce absorbed today in India is permanently removed from global supply. Now, let me give you the scale of what permanently removed actually means, because this is where the story becomes genuinely alarming for anyone trying to buy silver in the Western world over the next 6 months. India produces almost no silver domestically. The country's annual mine production is negligible, less than 1% of its consumption. Every ounce of silver that India consumes must be imported. And every ounce that enters India gets absorbed into one of 3 destinations: household savings, jewelry fabrication, or industrial consumption. None of these 3 destinations return silver to the global trading market. Let me explain each one. Household savings. Indian families treat silver the way American families treat real estate, as a generational store of wealth that you do not sell. You accumulate it, you maintain it, you pass it down. When an Indian household buys silver coins or bars on Akshaya Tritiya, that metal goes into a safe, a vault, or a family storage location and stays there for decades. It is not trading inventory. It is family wealth. You do not sell your family's financial foundation because the spot price moved 10%. Jewelry fabrication. India is the world's largest consumer of silver jewelry. When silver is fabricated into jewelry in India, it enters the consumer market as adornment, dowry gifts, wedding presents. That silver stays in circulation within India's domestic jewelry market for generations. It does not get melted down and re-exported as bullion. The jewelry itself becomes part of the cultural wealth system. Industrial consumption. India's electronics manufacturing, solar panel production, and medical device industries consume silver in forms that are not economically recoverable. Once silver goes into a circuit board, a photovoltaic cell, or a medical instrument, it is consumed. It does not come back. 3 destinations, 0 return flow. This is why India is a black hole for global silver supply. Metal flows in, nothing flows out. Here's the data that quantifies exactly how large this drain has become and why 2026 represents an inflection point. India's middle class is currently estimated at approximately 350 million people. That number is growing at one of the fastest rates in human history, projected to reach 600 million by 2030. Every household that moves from poverty into middle-class economic security gains the financial ability to participate in cultural silver buying for the first time. This is not cyclical demand responding to price. This is a demographic wave. 350 million people today with the income to buy silver on Akshaya Tritiya. 600 million people in 4 years. The demand curve is not flat. It is exponentially rising. Layer on top of that India's wedding industry. India hosts approximately 10 million weddings annually. The average Indian wedding involves significant silver gifts, coins, utensils, jewelry, decorative items. Silver is not optional in an Indian wedding. It is culturally mandated. 10 million weddings per year, each one consuming silver. That baseline demand exists regardless of global price, regardless of deficit conditions, regardless of COMEX inventory levels. Layer on top of that the Diwali festival, which occurs later this year in October 2026. Diwali is the festival of lights and prosperity, and it is traditionally one of the two peak silver buying seasons in India alongside Akshaya Tritiya. The pattern is predictable and relentless. Massive physical demand surge on Akshaya Tritiya in April, sustained moderate demand through summer and monsoon season, then another massive surge during Diwali in October. American silver investors are competing with this demand, not occasionally, every single day, and twice a year the competition becomes overwhelming. Now let me explain the rupee factor, because this adds a dimension to Indian silver demand that almost no Western analyst discusses. The Indian rupee hit 91.7 to the dollar recently, an all-time record low. When a currency weakens to record lows, the population holding that currency experiences a direct, measurable loss of purchasing power. Savings denominated in rupees lose value. Imported goods become more expensive. The middle class feels the erosion acutely. The traditional Indian response to currency weakness is immediate and culturally programmed. Convert rupees into hard assets, specifically gold and silver. This is not a new behavior. This is a 3,000-year-old survival strategy that has protected Indian household wealth through empires, invasions, colonial rule, independence, and every currency crisis in between. When the rupee weakens, Indian silver demand does not decrease because the dollar price of silver is rising. It increases because families are trying to escape the rupee. The weaker the rupee gets, the more aggressively Indian households buy silver, regardless of the dollar-denominated price. This creates a feedback loop that Western price models do not capture. Dollar-denominated silver price goes up. Rupee weakens against the dollar. Indian families accelerate silver buying. To escape rupee weakness, demand increases instead of decreasing. COMEX analysts, watching their models, see higher prices and expect demand destruction. India delivers demand acceleration instead. The current rupee crisis is not temporary. India's central bank is burning through foreign exchange reserves trying to stabilize the currency. That intervention has limits. If the rupee breaks through 92 to the dollar, the next wave of panic buying in Indian precious metals markets will make today's Akshaya Tritiya demand look modest. Here is the industrial silver story in India that is completely separate from the cultural demand, and it is growing faster than most analysts realize. India's government has launched a Make in India initiative designed to build domestic manufacturing capacity across electronics, pharmaceuticals, defense equipment, and renewable energy. Every major electronics company, Apple, Samsung, Foxconn, has announced significant manufacturing expansions on Indian soil in 2025 and 2026. Each electronics factory is a new silver demand center. Smartphones require silver in circuit boards, touchscreens, and camera modules. Every phone assembled in India consumes silver. India now has over 800 million smartphone users, and domestic phone production is ramping to serve that market, plus global exports. India's solar program is staggering in scale. The government has committed to 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030. Even with aggressive thrifting, engineering thinner silver pastes and photovoltaic cells, the absolute scale of India's solar ambitions places the country among the top 5 sovereign contributors to global silver demand through 2030. Electric vehicle adoption is beginning to accelerate in India. The government is offering substantial subsidies for EV purchases and domestic EV manufacturing. Every EV contains 25 to 50 grams of silver in electrical management systems. India's EV market is still small compared to China's, but it is growing at triple-digit annual percentage rates off a low base. 3 separate industrial demand drivers, electronics manufacturing, solar installations, EV adoption, all growing simultaneously, all consuming silver that cannot be substituted, all concentrated in a country that is also running the world's most aggressive cultural silver accumulation program. This is not a country where silver demand is going to moderate. This is a country where every trend, demographic, industrial, monetary, points toward accelerating demand for the next decade. Let me give you the supply side of India's story, because this is where the global drain mechanism becomes visible. India's silver imports in early 2026 have been running at elevated levels despite record high prices. The country imported substantial quantities in January and February to prepare for Akshaya Tritiya and upcoming wedding season demand. Those imports came from global refineries in Switzerland, Australia, Mexico, and Peru. Every ounce that shipped to India in preparation for today is an ounce that did not go into COMEX registered vaults, did not go to London OTC dealers, did not go to European depositories. The global refinery system has limited output capacity. When India pre-orders massive quantities for Akshaya Tritiya, the refineries allocate that metal to India. Western dealers get what is left. And here's the critical detail. Indian demand is not politely waiting its turn. Indian dealers pay premiums. They pay immediately. They pay in cash. When a refinery has 10,000 ounces available and an Indian dealer offers a $5 premium for immediate delivery, while an American dealer offers spot price for delivery in 2 weeks, the refinery sells to India. This is basic economics. The buyer willing to pay more and pay faster gets the metal. And right now, today, April 19th, 2026, Indian buyers are paying 24 to 27% premiums, while American dealers are trying to source metal at spot plus $3 to $5. The global silver supply chain is not a fair queue where everyone waits their turn. It is a continuous auction where metal flows to the highest bidder. India is the highest bidder. India wins the auction. American buyers get whatever India does not absorb. Now let me connect something that happened this week that almost nobody noticed, and it directly confirms everything I just described about India's permanent demand. The Silver Institute published its World Silver Survey 2026 this month. Buried in the regional demand breakdown is a detail that should be front-page news. Indian silver demand in 2025 was one of the most significant contributors to the global deficit. Not China, not the US, India. And the 2026 forecast shows Indian demand remaining elevated or increasing across multiple categories, despite prices that are 150% higher than 2 years ago. Jewelry demand, industrial demand, investment demand, all of them either stable or growing in India, while other regions show demand destruction from high prices. This is the empirical confirmation that Indian demand is structurally inelastic. The Silver Institute, the most credentialed research organization in the entire industry, is documenting that India's silver consumption does not respond to price the way Western economic models assume it should. Price goes up, demand stays flat or rises. That pattern breaks every assumption built into commodity supply-demand modeling. And it means that any analysis predicting silver demand will fall at higher prices is fundamentally wrong about India, which is one of the top 3 silver consumers globally. Here is what the London Vault situation tells you about where India's demand is pulling metal from, and why this creates a delivery crisis for COMEX 9 business days from now. The Silver Institute specifically stated that physical silver availability in London may remain relatively tight in 2026. London is the world's largest OTC silver trading hub. The LBMA vaults hold the bulk of physical silver that backs global trading. When the Silver Institute says London availability is relatively tight, they are using extremely careful institutional language to describe a supply condition that is bordering on critical. Why is London tight? Because metal is flowing out faster than it is flowing in. And where is it flowing? To Asia, to India, to buyers paying premiums that London's traditional OTC market cannot compete with. In 2025, London silver lease rates, the interest rate charged to borrow physical silver for short-term delivery obligations, hit all-time record highs. Banks and dealers scrambling to source metal to fulfill delivery commitments were willing to pay unprecedented rates just to borrow silver temporarily. That is not a sign of abundant supply. That is a sign of acute physical shortage. COMEX relies on the London market as a backup source when registered vault inventory gets low. If a delivery demand surge on COMEX exceeds registered availability, the standard response is to source metal from London, ship it to New York, and use it to settle contracts. But if London is already tight, already running lease rates at record highs, already seeing its own metal drain to Asia, then COMEX's backup supply source is not available. 9 business days to May 1st notice day. 241.8 million ounces of paper claims. 76.88 million ounces of registered physical silver, London tight. India absorbing today's Akshaya Tritiya demand at $101 per ounce. The backup supply that COMEX would normally tap does not exist in sufficient quantity at prices anywhere near $79.60. Let me give you one more India data point that is not in any mainstream analysis, and it changes the timeline for when Western buyers will face genuine scarcity. India's wedding season runs from November through February every year. That is the period of peak wedding activity due to astrological and seasonal considerations. The silver buying associated with those weddings happens in advance, typically in the months leading up to wedding season as families prepare gifts and dowries. That means August, September, October 2026 will see elevated Indian silver demand in preparation for wedding season. Then Diwali hits in October, creating its own demand surge, then wedding season itself from November through February 2027. The next 6 months are not a period where Indian demand moderates. They are a period where Indian demand runs elevated continuously from Akshaya Tritiya today through wedding season ending February 2027. 10 consecutive months of structurally high Indian physical demand pulling from the same global supply pool that COMEX delivery, Chinese accumulation, and Western retail investment are all competing for. If you are waiting for Indian demand to ease so Western dealers can restock at reasonable premiums, you are waiting until March 2027 at the earliest. And by then, 6 more months of deficit drawdowns will have removed another 23 to 34 million ounces from above-ground stockpiles. Sunday, April 19th, 2026. Akshaya Tritiya. India paying $101 per ounce, while COMEX says $79.60. A 24 to 27% premium that represents 1.4 billion people acting on 3,000 years of cultural programming. A middle class expanding from 350 million to 600 million people by 2030. A rupee at all-time lows driving currency escape into hard assets. Industrial demand from electronics, solar, and EV manufacturing all accelerating. 10 million weddings per year consuming silver. Diwali in October creating a second demand surge. Wedding season from November to February. And zero domestic production, meaning every ounce consumed is permanently imported and absorbed. This is not a temporary demand spike. This is a structural, demographic, cultural, and industrial demand wave that is just beginning. And the financial media in America is not covering it because they do not understand that silver markets are not about New York anymore. They're about Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. They are hiding this from you, not because it is secret, because they are not looking. You are looking now. Act accordingly. This is John A.G. Stacker Intelligence. Do your own research. Consult a licensed financial advisor. This is education only.